The Grand Council chamber was unusually tense. Ambassador Griselda Blanco sat at the long, polished table, her sharp eyes scanning the gathered alien representatives. Around her, the most powerful factions in the galaxy spoke in hushed tones, their bioluminescent displays flickering nervously. Across the table, Grand Chancellor Krathos tapped his clawed fingers against the table's surface. Ambassador Blanco, let me get this straight. You are claiming that Earth, the birthplace of humanity, deserves a seat on this council? Blanco leaned back, sipping from a cup of Terran coffee she had smuggled in. Not claiming, stating. That seat belongs to us. The room fell silent. The assembled species shifted uncomfortably, their movements betraying centuries of hidden truths. Krathos's red eyes narrowed. That seat has been occupied for over 10,000 cycles. Blanco smirked. By whom? The council members fidgeted, avoiding her gaze. Finally, an old, withered reptilian, Ambassador Zalvarek of the Zorath Empire, exhaled. By the ones who took it before you ever looked up. Capone crossed his arms, his usual smirk gone. You're telling me someone stole our place before we even got off Earth? Zalvarek's scaled fingers tapped the table, his voice a slow hiss. Not stole, claimed, as is tradition. The holoscreen flickered, revealing a massive, untouched throne, carved from black obsidian and adorned with unknown symbols. It sat at the head of the council chambers, its surface untouched by time. Krathos exhaled. That seat was placed here at the dawn of the council's formation. Before any of us developed space travel. It was waiting. Blanco's expression remained unreadable. Waiting for what? Zalvarek looked at her, his yellowed eyes filled with something close to fear. Waiting for you. The chamber erupted into chaos. Krathos slammed his fist down. Enough! His red eyes flicked back to Blanco. The reason humanity never received an invitation is because the invitation was already delivered. Blanco's fingers tightened around her cup. When? Krathos exhaled. Over 10,000 cycles ago. Pablo Escobar had been silent until now. He leaned forward, his eyes locked onto Krathos. You expect me to believe that? Krathos met his gaze. Believe it or not, it is the truth. Escobar's jaw tightened. Capone grinned. So let me get this straight. Someone showed up, dropped a throne with our name on it, and then disappeared. Zalvarek nodded. We assumed it was left by an unknown precursor race, but when humanity finally entered the galactic stage, he hesitated, glancing at the others. The throne activated. Blanco's eyes narrowed. Activated? The holoscreen shifted, displaying footage from Earth's first deep space transmission. A simple, historic message broadcasted out into the unknown. The very moment humanity announced itself to the stars, the ancient black throne in the council chamber came to life. Krathos's voice was low and controlled. For the first time in 10,000 cycles, the throne responded. It projected a single phrase across the chamber. The chamber fell into dead silence. Escobar's voice was quiet but sharp. What did it say? Zalvarek swallowed hard. It said, "We are here." The room held its breath. Blanco exhaled sharply. So you all knew about this, and yet, when humanity finally reached the stars, no one told us? Krathos's claws tensed. We debated what to do. Escobar's laugh was cold. Oh, I bet you did. Krathos's jaw tightened. Do you understand what this means? That throne predates every civilization here. Its arrival was a mystery, a symbol of something greater. If humanity truly has claim to it. Blanco finished his sentence. It means we weren't just another species joining the council. We were meant to lead it. The council erupted again, voices colliding, languages overlapping. Capone chuckled. I think they're scared. Blanco leaned forward, her voice sharp. If you knew we were meant to take that seat, why did you keep it from us? Zalvarek hesitated. Because we feared what it meant. Escobar's eyes darkened. Feared what? Kratos exhaled. We have records, old ones, dating back to the first cycles of the Council. The holoscreen flickered again, revealing ancient text carved into stone. Zalvarek's voice was low. The prophecy states, "The ones who return shall either bring the rise of the stars or the end of all things." The chamber fell into absolute silence. Blanco's grip tightened on the table. So let me get this straight. You all saw that message, and instead of telling us, you decided to keep humanity in the dark? Kratos' expression remained blank. We did what was necessary. Capone laughed, low and dangerous. Yeah, I bet you did. Escobar exhaled, then stood up. Enough of this. His tone was cold, final. That throne belongs to us. Kratos watched him carefully. And if we refuse? Escobar smiled. A slow, dangerous thing. Then we take it. Blanco placed her hands on the table. You had 10,000 cycles to prepare for us. Let's see if it was enough. The council chamber erupted in panic. Zalvarek's voice rose above the chaos. You don't understand. That seat is more than just a throne. It is a responsibility, a burden. It may not be a gift at all. It could be a warning. Escobar's smile didn't fade. Then we'll deal with whatever comes. Blanco turned toward the ancient obsidian throne at the head of the chamber. For 10,000 cycles, it had waited. Now humanity had come for it, and they weren't leaving without their crown. The council chamber was in chaos. Every species present spoke at once, some shouting in outrage, others whispering in panicked tones. The realization that humanity had come to claim its rightful throne sent shockwaves through the galactic order. Blanco stood motionless, her eyes fixed on the ancient black throne. It loomed over the chamber like a watchful guardian, its obsidian surface pulsing faintly, as if recognizing that its rightful owners had arrived. Escobar leaned toward Kratos, voice cold and measured. Let's make this simple, Chancellor. Are you going to honor what's rightfully ours, or are we doing this the hard way? Kratos' red eyes burned with conflict. His claws tensed against the table, but for the first time in the entire meeting, he hesitated. Zalvarek, the oldest among them, exhaled slowly. Escobar, you don't understand what you're asking for. Escobar tilted his head. Oh? Enlighten me. The holoscreen flickered, and ancient star maps filled the air. They showed a vast galactic empire, one that had existed long before any species in the room had developed spaceflight. Zalvarek's voice was barely above a whisper. 10,000 cycles ago, this galaxy was ruled by a single power, a species known only as the First Lords. They were unlike anything we have ever seen. Capone's grin faded. You're saying humanity is connected to them? Kratos shook his head. Number we're saying they might have been you. The room froze. Escobar's expression didn't change, but Blanco saw the slight flicker of tension in his jaw. Kratos pointed at the maps. The First Lords vanished overnight. Their empire collapsed without warning. All that remained were ruins, and that throne, Zalvarek continued. When it was placed in the council chambers, we thought it was a relic, a forgotten artifact of a long-dead race. But when humanity emerged, the throne responded. And that means only one thing. He looked at Escobar, fear creeping into his ancient eyes. The First Lords never disappeared. They just forgot who they were. A silence thicker than space itself filled the room. Blanco exhaled, crossing her arms. So what? You think humanity is some kind of lost empire that's just now waking up? Zalvarek nodded slowly. And we fear what will happen when you remember. Escobar chuckled. Well, I guess there's only one way to find out. He turned toward the black throne. The council watched in stunned silence as he took his first step toward it. The obsidian surface flared to life, glowing with symbols older than time itself. The throne had waited long enough, and humanity had finally come home. The chamber pulsed with a strange energy as Escobar stepped forward, the glow from the ancient throne casting eerie shadows across the gathered representatives. The air itself felt heavier, like the moment before a storm. Krathos's claws tensed. "Escobar, don't!" Escobar didn't stop. "Why? Afraid of what happens when we sit down?" Blanco kept pace with him, her voice low and sharp. "You feel that?" Capone nodded, rolling his knife between his fingers. "Oh yeah, something's waking up." The throne's obsidian surface shimmered, symbols rearranging themselves as Escobar neared. The markings were shifting, translating. Blanco's breath caught as she realized what they now said. "Welcome home!" The chamber exploded into motion. Krathos lunged, reaching for his sidearm, but Capone was faster. With a flick of his wrist, his knife buried itself into Krathos's arm, forcing him back with a snarl. Zalvarek slammed his hands against the table. "Stop! You don't know what you're awakening!" Escobar ignored them all. His hand extended toward the armrest, inches from contact. A shockwave erupted from the throne, sending alien dignitaries sprawling, knocking over banners, and shattering hollow displays. The air cracked with static. The smell of ozone, thick as reality itself, seemed to bend. Blanco braced herself. Oh, shit. The throne's energy rushed outward, flooding the chamber, twisting through the walls, the ceiling, into the very foundation of the council itself. The entire station trembled as something ancient and vast reawakened. Krathos staggered to his feet, face twisted in fear. "You fool! You don't understand what you've done!" The chamber's massive central display flickered to life, lines of Terran script scrolling across it, too fast to read. Then, suddenly, a voice spoke. Not in the Council's universal translation dialect, not in any modern language, but in Terran. "Acknowledged. System awakening. Awaiting orders." Blanco's pulse hammered. "That's a machine interface." Capone's usual smirk vanished. "This whole place, it's not just a council chamber, is it?" Zalvarek's aged voice trembled. "It's a control center." Escobar's fingers curled against the throne's surface, feeling its power pulsing beneath his skin. He turned to the council, eyes cold. "You've been sitting in our house this whole time, and you never even realized it." Krathos stepped back, shaking his head. "You don't understand. If you activate it completely, there will be no turning back." Escobar smirked. "Then let's see what happens." He sat down. The station screamed to life. Light poured from the throne, spreading like wildfire, filling the corridors, surging through ancient conduits that had lain dormant for eons. Beyond the station's vast windows, space itself seemed to ripple. And then the ships appeared. Not just a few, not a fleet, a full armada, materializing from the void, dark silhouettes blotting out the stars. Their hulls were marked with the same obsidian patterns as the throne, their weapons still primed from battles fought long before any living species in the room had been born. Capone let out a low whistle. "Now that's an entrance." Zalvarek's face went pale. The First Lords never vanished. They were waiting. Krathos's voice was barely a whisper. "And now they've returned." Blanco turned to Escobar, her eyes unreadable. "Boss, what's the move?" Escobar leaned forward, gripping the throne's armrests, feeling its ancient systems awaiting command. He took a breath, then smiled. "We take back what's ours."